Good afternoon, everybody. Can you guys hear me just fine? Great. My name is Mike Amato. I'm here with SRG. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor and privilege to share with you guys today about missional AI, about important topic of, well, I kind of change the topic. I put down Mission Possible, AI's role in reaching the unreachable. We're talking about fulfilling the Great Commission using emerging AI. The reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this is because all of us have a mission, and that is to fulfill the Great Commission. Can we say amen to that? Amen. Great, thanks. So I'll be referring to several brilliant books on AI, which I highly recommend. You're going to see those. You want to write it down. I highly recommend that you guys will read them. Also, I want to recognize some of the people that are in this room that are focused on AI. In particular, one of the people that I'm a big fan of, Dr. Kay over there, back there. It's a pleasure to have you. She's one of the authorities on AI and the ethics of AI. So it's good to have you guys with us. We live in a world increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, technology that is not only transforming industries, but also revolutionizing how we approach ministry and mission. This impact is especially powerful in regions such as Middle East, which I'm from, and North Africa, where sharing the gospel often involves navigating significant restrictions and persecution. I was born in Iran into a Shiite family, and I came to Christ, and I ministered bringing the gospel to the Farsi speakers of Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, 140 million people. And so I stand here as somebody who is an expert with dealing with Muslims, and I can tell you that AI is revolutionizing how we reach this restricted people and this region within the entire area. So I want to share with you guys about one of the first book that I want to introduce to you guys, which, how many of you guys have read this book? All right, wonderful. So Nick Bostrom, in his influential book, Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers, Strategies, highlights the incredible potential and profound risk associated with advanced AI. You could find this book on Amazon. I highly recommend any of you guys who is leading your ministry and organization in AI, please read this. Max Tegmark, author of Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, describes an evolving relationship between humans and AI that profoundly amplifies our capabilities, including spiritual outreach, which is our expertise, right? And also our mission work. Meanwhile, we heard today, I believe it was one of the speakers, she talked about John Lennox. This book is something that I think all of you guys should get and read. 2084, there's a new revision that just came out last month. It's called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Humanity. Insightfully examines the AI's implication for our mission and for global experience. So today's Christian organizations increasingly depend on digital content, online advertising, and digital outreach to expand their kingdom impact. How many of you guys are involved in doing exactly that? By a show of hands. I think we all are, right? The rest of us are kind of like dragging, but from our church outreach to discipleship to faith-driven entrepreneurship, digital engagement has become central. But as AI-driven hyper-personalization reshapes online experiences, how should ministries adapt? So let me give you a case study. This young lady was taken to emergency room and then taken to a mental ward because she was suicidal. She was dating an AI personality that was engaged to her. There was a glitch on the company's side, and she thought that she was dumped, and she wanted to commit suicide. So the hyper-personalization that we're seeing in our society is going from extreme to extreme. And again, we heard today about how should we maneuver through these challenges and opportunities when we minister, especially to unreached people group or across the ocean to different regions. So any ministry that is still relying on static websites and traditional advertisement must begin asking the critical question. And the critical question is this one. Are we prepared to engage effectively with individuals seeking deeply personalized digital experiences? Think about that. And the second question, is, do our current outreach methods effectively meet the spiritual and cultural context of those we are aiming to reach? If you're reaching the Sunnis of North Africa, it's going to be a different model than reaching the Shiites in Iran. If you're reaching the people in Yemen, it's going to be different from reaching people in Saudi Arabia. So the context has to be changed, and we cannot have a cookie-cutter approach. It is up to us to understand our audience. So with a show of hands, how many of you guys in this room are still skeptical of AI? Can we just be honest? How many of you guys? All right, a couple of people. So about 7 or 8 months ago, we were at a session, and one of my colleagues who was actually in this room said, can I share with you guys an AI prayer? And as he read the AI prayer, people got up and left. So in this room, only 2 people raised their hands and said they're not comfortable with AI. But if this room was filled with church leaders, with pastors, I guarantee you that at least 40% of people in this room would raise their hands and they said they're not comfortable with AI. Can you guys relate to that? All right, so what we're dealing over here is that if we are, let me share this with you. Why is integrating emerging AI? And some of our friends, such as FaithTech, they are using the word redemptive technology. It's essential for fulfilling the Great Commission. Guys, it is important, it is here, it has arrived. We need to take advantage of it. Firstly, number 1, AI technology breaks through long-standing barriers like geography, language, and cultural constraints. AI-driven language translation tools that we heard about, for example, they rapidly translate biblical material into diverse languages and dialects, enabling unprecedented accessibility. As recent studies published in 2024 and 2025, editions of Journal of Missionary Theology, they basically said that AI-driven chatbots, which we heard about, can facilitate meaningful, secure, and anonymous spiritual dialogue, even within highly restricted, persecuted regions. So at SRG, we are very keen on coming up with good solutions. If you take a look at the funnel of communication, where you have 10 million people engaging your ministry, your organization, at the top of the funnel, the vast amount of people force and the equity that you have, which is your people, and your funding is being used on the upper 1/3 of the funnel. But the chat bots can easily handle the traffic for that upper 1/3. But many of our organizations are not leveraging that. That saves you money, that becomes efficient, and that allows you to focus more of your time and people power on the second, the 2/3 that are meaningful engagement with people. Number 2, AI enables ministries to deliver uniquely personalized and culturally responsive gospel messages. Take Mark's insightful remarks about human-AI collaboration highlights the ability of AI algorithm to detect subtle spiritual inquiries unique to specific cultures and communities. It can tell if you're reaching to them from a Shiite background or a Sunni background. Ministries leveraging AI insights can therefore provide tailored spiritual experiences, significantly enhancing engagement and receptivity. Meaning that the Coptics in Egypt may not be working with the Muslim background converts, but that AI capability can detect who's coming from which demographic and ministers to them. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you guys had to really understand the depth of social issues and cultural issues that in Egypt people are going head to head when they are following Christ between the Coptic and the converts. Just imagine how AI is going to go ahead and sew that together. Thirdly, AI supports data-driven strategic mission initiatives. The author of the 2025 book, Genesis, Artificial Intelligence, Hope, and Human Spirit, argues convincingly that AI systems can pinpoint spiritual openness with precision, allowing ministries like you and I, all of us, to allocate resources effectively and purposefully. This means ministries can strategically and confidently target their efforts, maximizing their impact. However, Thoughtful integration of AI into ministry must include deliberate ethical safeguards. And this is where Dr. Kim has been very, very involved. She's saying, guys, as good as AI is, let's go ahead and talk about some safeguards. Let's talk about, how it makes sense. Because just because AI is there, doesn't mean that we all have to use it right now. Well, I would say to you, yes, let's get our feet wet. Let's create some chatbots. Let's get into it. But there are safeguards, and those safeguards are very important. Bostrom and Tegmark emphasize ethical framework ensuring transparency, data privacy, and informed consent must guide our use of AI. Ministries must diligently protect sensitive personal information, particularly when ministering in regions where privacy and security concerns are heightened. Additionally, vigilance against AI biases is crucial. AI system learns from data that can be unintentionally embedded culturally and into the doctrinal biases. So therefore, regular theological oversight and culturally informed training must accompany AI deployment, ensuring alignment with biblical truth and cultural respect. If as a Muslim, I go to a Christian chatbot and I said, tell me about Muhammad. Is he a prophet of God? What kind of an answer is that going to give us? What is the difference between Islamic fasting and Christian fasting? Is the God of Islam the same as the God of Christianity? So you want to make sure that you have very good and close theological oversight of your system, whatever system it is that you're using. Moreover, AI must complement, not replace, essential human connections inherent in mission work. Lennox underscores that irreplaceable value of human relationship, prayerful discernment, and personal presence and community building. AI should enhance these human efforts, not serve as a substitute. Today we heard from one of our speakers, they said AI should be love-driven. Did you guys think about that? What does that mean? A machine can have love. To me, that's hard to digest. How many of you guys can have questions in your heart? How's that possible? I had that question. Can we just honestly, or they asked another question today. They said, would AI be influenced by Holy Spirit? Remember that question? So there was a pause by our speaker, which is a very, very interesting pause because he's deeply involved in the technical aspect. I am deeply involved in the ministry aspect. And for me, the immediate answer was, Holy Spirit is there. Technology is here. But what we're dealing with these days, guys, is that if you do not have that human element, one-on-one connection, no matter how good your AI is, something is lacking. Because imagine through that funnel of communication, out of 2 million people in your target region, 10 people, just 10 people go to the bottom of the funnel that now are your key people. If you do not establish a face-to-face connection with them, most likely you have lost them. Yet, the data is telling us that our children are very digitally connected. So you and I will deal with a crisis, a dilemma. How do we close that gap? I don't have an answer. I don't think anybody here really has that answer, except that we are going fast through this growth that we know that we cannot really separate AI and technology from our ministry because our children are using it. And I got to tell you something else. Remember way back when many organizations did not want to be online. I mean, this goes back to like 30, 40 years ago. You guys are very young. But when World Wide Web got started, some organizations, some ministries just pushed back. They're like, we're not sure. Now we're seeing the same trend. I got to tell you something. Those churches, those Christian organizations that do not adopt AI at some level in their organization are not going to be relevant. That's the sad thing. Is it a prediction? No, I think the writing's on the wall. So it is an encouragement to us to be able to really adopt that. In conclusion, I want to share this with you guys. Ministries must therefore prepare now to harness this powerful technology thoughtfully and ethically. How many of you guys are right now putting together safeguards to implement AI usage in your organization? Can we see it? I want to encourage you guys to share your safeguards with others. Because what comes to your mind is going to help that brother that's sitting over there in that area. The beauty of an event like this is the networking power to be able to share things with each other. I want to share this last picture with you. If pastors were in this room, probably a good 40% of them would be hesitant to adopt AI. In fact, there was a study done about churches. I don't have the study in front of me, but I could send it to you guys. That said about 60% of the churches in America are pushing back against AI. The fact that about 300 or 400 of us are here in this room is very, very prophetic. It's wonderful. But I just want to tell you guys that we're standing at a very extraordinary crossroads over here, where we're going to be able to bring technology, redemptive technology, together with the need to bring the gospel out to people. Now, my specialty is, again, reaching the unreached in Middle East. And I'm done with my session, but I want to go ahead and open up a Q&A session right over here. And we do have some experts in the room that we could definitely benefit from. And this is very impromptu, but I think hearing from them would be wonderful. I did mention the name Dr. K. Dr. K, would I be able to, guys, we have somebody here who actually has written papers, and she's somebody that I look up to. But let me ask you guys a question. If you have any questions about the ethics of AI, its use, how we could go ahead and use that for Great Commission, and what are the barriers that you have to overcome, I highly recommend that you talk to her. So this is the time for questions. Any questions? So the question is, how is SRG deploying chatbots, or what is our plan for future? We are in the learning phase right now. And would that be accurate? We have JR, we got Justin, we got Susan from SRG, and some other people. We have Chick from SRG. Would any of you guys would like to add anything to this?
We are in the research phase, but we do have ministry partners which we help fund who are utilizing some AI chatbots now with basic.
So we have ministry partners coming from different spectrum. Some are using OpenAI, some are using more complex things, but they're practically, what I'm realizing is that we're all over the place. So coming here and comparing notes allows us to be more accurate in where God is leading us.
The other thing I would add is that those ministry partners that we work with are exclusively in the Middle East and North Africa. So this is ministry in some of the most restricted parts of the world. But what we've noticed is that by being able to deploy AI chatbots, it's allowed us to steward the human resources so much more. Because when the most commonly asked questions, the FAQs, the same questions that seekers and searchers who are coming out of Islam, coming to Christ, as they are needing to get some just real honest answers, that eats up an exorbitant amount of time of our human resources. So we're noticing how the chatbots are able to answer those, and then through algorithmic equation and analysis, trigger the transfer to a live respondent when it looks like they're statistically within 2 or 3 questions from asking about a personal relationship with Christ. So that's beginning to be a game changer that we're witnessing. And some of the most advanced cases of that we're seeing are in the Middle East, which I think are probably a generation ahead of where most American churches are.
So one of the tests that we had, a proof of concept, was we needed to get an AI-generated avatar that would speak Hijazi for the Hijazi population in Middle East. And we had to do research. We came up with different solutions. But the challenge is that when you use this, you are basically using a Chinese-based organization that is providing a cookie-cutter approach. We use Heigen. You guys are familiar with Heigen? Heigen is actually, it's a platform that could go ahead and take your information and give you generated AI. It is a Chinese-owned company. It's Chinese-funded. So the question comes about, if I'm going to go ahead and put a message in Hijazi into an AI platform that belongs to a country that is not friendly to Christians, what are we doing? How are we dealing with the data, the privacy, and the target audience? We still don't have a solution for that, folks. But we're using AI. We're using AI news in our own program for the past year. China has been using generative AI news hosts for the past 4 years, 5 years already. We just started using it last year and bringing programs into Iran. So the ethics of it and the data privacy that I shared with you earlier is extremely important, because in no time, we're going to be able to reach the most unreached people in Middle East. But again, data privacy, correct theology, the human element, we still don't have a solid answer for that. Dr. K, since you're here, I picked on you several times. It's about time to ask you to go ahead and stand up and give us a few of your thoughts. What would you think are some of the most important things that we need to consider as we start leveraging AI into our organizations and ministries? Yeah. Dr. K, why don't you come up here? Can you just give her a Guys, this is pre-rehearsed. We haven't even rehearsed this, but I think... You think you could stop teaching? We want to ask you to teach.
Okay, all right, let's thank you. All right, I don't have the song quite right. All right, I did ask y'all a question, but I didn't get the answer. What is the Pauline triad? Come on. Justin, I know you know what that is. No. That's getting a little bit deeper, but we just want to stick with Paul himself, right? In his letters and through Acts, it's faith, hope, and love, right? So we wouldn't want to overthink that, but when I think of putting together, especially from a theological standpoint and having that theological framework into the ethics, first I look at, and many of you have interacted with the medical community, right? So I am actually a biomedical ethicist by profession. And we look at 4 principles, and when I'm thinking through the ethics, especially of AI, now that I've transferred that over, and thinking through AI ethics specifically, and how we would apply it, applied AI ethics. Autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. So whenever you interact with the medical community and you call for an ethics consult, those are the 4 principles you'll hear about. So I've taken in my own framework, just taught about this yesterday, and applied these principles also to AI ethics. And then to add on top of that, the faith, hope, and love, the Christian virtues as well, and adding that to it, and asking certain questions like if you're going to be developing chatbots or anything in your Christian nonprofit or in your church, that one of the first things you want to ask is, if you're a developer, what sort of character should a developer have as they're building this technology, right? That would be one of the questions that come out of that. And also, what sort of character formation do you envision for your users? That would be another question that we'd ask. And we'd ask about that in the context of faith, hope, and love, and also these four principles as well. The other thing that I would encourage in thinking through this and actually applying it would be something that we call a competing interest framework. Okay, so if you're actually looking at how do I implement this and how do I know this is going to honor God and it's actually going to benefit our users as we implement this. You can think about this in a competing interest framework because there's actually no ethical issue unless there's competing views about the ought. That's what an actual ethical issue is. So we can look at that through the eyes of, or through the lens of a good versus a good, or a right versus a right, or a right versus a good. And thinking through what do those look like within this framework of these principles, and also the Pauline triad, faith, hope, and love, and then what are some of the competing interests. And once you're able to work through that, knowing that there's going to be certain technologies, there's going to be certain approaches that are not going to fit within that framework. And then you can begin to think through what this might look like. Once you have actually worked through what I call this 6-step process. I know when I talk about it up here, it sounds like that's pretty easy, black and white, cut and dry. There's nothing cut and dry about doing that sort of thing. But at least it gives you some sort of framework to think about, because you want to consider as a builder and as developer, well, what sort of person are you as you're building this technology? And what sort of character do you want your users also to be able to cultivate? Because if you're familiar, how many of you know who C.S. Lewis is? Right? And you've read Abolition of Man. Right? So he talks about, well, okay, he says men without chess in his book, but I've changed that a little bit to humans without chess. So if we have that missing middle element while we're building, and if you think about it just with that framework, or for Lewis, when he talked about that people are humans without chess, you have no way to discern between the intellect and the belly, right? So we can't discern that truth. So if you actually have developers and builders that are missing that heart and that cultivation of being able to discern truth as it is in God's word, then if I were to infer that to actually building some of these technologies through AI, through our ministries, then could it be possible if we're not considering that? And that's a huge wisdom gap, right? That we're actually developing machines without chess that can't help with that sort of discernment as well. So anyway, that's a long answer to
I
it.
think that's brilliant. So let me also, David Benver sitting over there, he's the founder and CEO of MII. For years, he tried to teach us about personas. And I want to share with you guys that over the years, they have learned so much about how to reach your actual target. Now, I want to ask you a question, David. With AI being here, it's a disruptor to all of that stuff. Do you think that your organization has to recalibrate using AI? And what is your recommendation to organizations that have to target their audience based on criteria like personas? What is your recommendation to people here? I think we could learn a lot from your experience as well. Don't go, I need you.
Okay.
Personal touch is still very important.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that much time. Maybe time for 2 more questions. Do you need to disclose to your audience if they're interacting with AI or with actual human being?
Oh, whether or not to disclose that? Well, on the face of it, prima facie, I would say that's probably the right thing to do, to expose that.
I would say to you 100% of the time,
Yeah.
disclose that they are connecting with AI. By the way, if you guys are creating and producing anything that is Gen AI, you need to also disclose, because there are a whole bunch of new laws that are coming about that could entrap you guys. So using Gen AI, anything at all, you do need to disclose. Second question.
Some people believe that the mind is hackable now with all the data and the tools that we have. So I'm interested in the ethical dilemma of hacking someone's mind to convert them to Christianity.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I haven't heard that. Mike, have you heard that?
I haven't, but we're getting close to that, because we did talk in one of the books that I pointed out to you. He talks about that. He says,
In the Barari book, he's talking about how we can, hack the mind of someone, and also we know that AI, for rhetorical contests, beat human for the last 2 years. So meaning that I can have your data build the exact argument that I need to convince you personally using those techniques. So I'm thinking, is it the part where Jesus says that we have to be soft as dove, but smart as serpent?
Yeah.
So I'm torn between, giving a good argument and doing the apologetics right, or taking those techniques to hack the mind of the person I want to convert.
I think a year from now, we're going to have a different conversation, because we're going to be even closer to having a real answer for that. Elon Musk is involved with brain chips. I'm just saying that I think technology is going to bring us to a place where these ethical questions are going to be something that we have to face. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, so if you think about kind of the evolution of some of this technology, right? And it was Marshall McLuhan who says, for every extension of technology, there is an amputation in the physical world. So if you think about the hand, right? If you think about just the body, so it started with the foot actually. So if you extend the foot using cars, automobiles, what happened in the physical world? Well, you had communities that reduced the amount of sidewalks in their community so that they couldn't walk as much, right? So if you if you extend the hand, which is still external, right? So now we have word processors and computers and so forth. So one of the things we don't do anymore is we don't teach cursive writing. Anybody, they don't teach writing anymore. And so the smartphone, if you think about that, extended the memory. So now we're becoming more internal. So that extended the memory, because let me ask you, when was the last time any of you remembered a phone number or committed to memory a phone number? Or tried to navigate anywhere without a map, without GPS, right? So this was now extending our memory into our nice little smartphones, right? So now with AI, such that it's extending now our entire personality, right? Our reasoning, if you think about 03 or 01, reasoning, analysis, we're extending all that out now into AI, so it's beginning to get closer and closer. And so what happens now, I don't know how many of y'all, if you don't mind me saying, how many of y'all spend time reading Reddit or Discord when, now if you think about extending reason and analysis and creativity and now coding, I spend an awful lot of time to get this cultural temperature of what's going on with these models and thinking about that very problem. And people are all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they're like, what has happened? Claude 3.7 has just gone down, and now I can't code anymore. What is up with this? It's like, wait a second, what did you do 6 months ago before there was Claude 3.7 or Gemini or anything like that? Now, all of a sudden, an injustice has been done. And so, because now we don't have our frontier models that now help us to code. So we've gone from the foot to the hand and internally. So what happens, and I want to ask you this, what happens when Now you begin as a coder or developer or in any industry, and now all of a sudden you can't outsource this anymore to our technology. You begin to lose confidence in yourself. How many of you know that that's true? You begin to lose confidence in your ability to navigate in this world and in your vocation now, right? And so I'm going to bring this around, Mike, to say, when people like that, and I'm taking the cultural temperature from Reddit, they begin to lose confidence in themselves, then they begin to ask questions about their purpose. And I'm going to bring this back around to theology and ethics. They begin to lose confidence, and they begin to question their purpose and their significance. Have you ever, let me ask you this personally, I know I have, you ever lost your confidence? What happens when you lose your confidence? You begin to question your worth, right? Now think about that from a global level, from the MENA just across the globe. Do you know what that means with AI, sir, that you raise that question? We start hacking into brains. You know what? Do you know what? For us here at Faith Tech, this AI moment then, when we think about that sort of hacking, becomes a gospel moment. Do you know why? Do you know why? Is because people begin to ask questions about their worth and where they stand, and who is it that should be answering those questions? Is it Sam Altman and OpenAI or Google? Or is it XAI and Grok that should be asking those or answering those questions? Who is it that should be answering those questions when people start to wonder about their significance? Right? It is the global church. So one of the things that we need to think about when it comes to developing and building our technology and using it within our context is to think about the fact that there are times where this technology now, especially as it penetrates more, and we give in to the tyranny of convenience, and it penetrates more into the heart where there is this wisdom gap that Lewis talked about, that people are asking questions about their significance. And one of the things that the church needs to be preoccupied with, I think, is coming alongside and saying, you know what? You have incredible worth. And it's so much more than how you think and how you process information. Because you're made in God's image, and you're his representative, and you have a bright future ahead of you. That is what we should be doing, and that is how we rehack the brain, sir. That's how we do it.
Let me also add a little something to that, too, if I may. I need that. Be sharing the microphone. So let me also, how many of you guys sat through the Barna presentation this morning? It was very profound. So to basically support Dr. K's arguments, people who had Jesus and were walking in their faith, they were more confident about themselves, their life, their future, their calling in life, and everything that they did. So as more people are going to become disillusioned with their own ability in the AI age, this cross-section that is walking the walk with the Lord is going to be really leading that sense of security that I have what it takes to not depend on artificial intelligence, but depend on Holy Spirit and God. And that, my friends, is at the core of the Great Commission, which is the topic of today. I still want to tell you, Barna did another research back about 7 years ago. Please go read it. It says that Great Commission has fallen out of interest in America. Most of our churches don't even talk about Great Commission. That's a problem, because if you don't talk about Matthew 28, then we're missing the boat. Then there's no purpose, and then we're letting somebody else, AI, kind of drive us into other areas. So again, I think this conversation is very, very powerful, and I'm so glad that you offered to come up here and join me. We do have one last question, then we have to wrap up and go.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of his messaging about words. And I just wanted to say,
Thank you so much for sharing. As we leave you guys, we want to share with you guys that AI is not a replacement. It is supposed to complement all of us. Would you please give a warm thank you to Dr. K for just coming up here impromptu. Thank you so much. Well, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.